Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Auckland International Airport.
Hey guys, my name is Christian Osmo. My followers know that I live in London, but I'm back in Oregon for a few weeks to celebrate my grandfather's life. He passed away recently and left nothing short of an ocean full of friends. The town he lived in is called Eagle Point, and that's where I am right now. And it's basically what you'd expect a small town in America to look like. It's very flat, everyone has a car. There are lovely houses next to trash trailers. They have some of the most friendly people you'll ever meet who are only sometimes racist, and an American flag in just about every house, which I find kind of interesting. Having moved from a small town to several big cities before ending up in London, I'm painfully familiar with all of the stereotypes that you big city people give us small town folk. They're only mostly true, but there are a few statistics that put several of them to rest. Small town people have happier, healthier, and more fulfilled relationships. Why? Small communities keep people accountable. If you're dating Michelle and Sharon at the same time, they're definitely going to find out about each other. You know why? Because they're probably friends, to be perfectly honest. And even if they're not, they definitely know someone who knows somebody else. You can't possibly blend into all the noise like you can in London. I've heard some people say that that's a bad thing, and they've actually got a point. Your lack of anonymity should not be the reason to stay faithful to your partner, obviously. While I agree the relative ease to cheat makes it more acceptable over time. Likewise, the opposite is true. Faithfulness, or lack thereof, makes it into popular culture respectively. Second reason, hanging out with people is lower commitment here, and people do it more. My first experience hanging out with someone in London was kind of a nightmare. Not only did I have to travel an hour and a half, but I had to pay £12 to do it. Not to mention the beer was twice as expensive and the bar was crazy crowded and loud. You think I had a real conversation? I don't think so. In small town America, we drive 5 minutes to someone's house, kick back with a six-pack for the same price as a pint, and that's just platonic friends. We talk about real issues when we do that. The next thing is that people communicate more effectively in small towns. Have you ever thought about how much better your relationship could be if you used your 2-hour commute to talk to your spouse? Us small town people don't just sit and watch TV all day like you might think. We have more better conversations with our girlfriends, our spouses, our parents, even the supermarket cashiers. And those platonic friendships turn into better romantic relationships because better conversations are more real. I hadn't lived in London that long before I had a conversation with a dude who'd say something like, "You're so totally right," after every time I described an issue that I had. He was just trying to make me feel better. It releases whatever tension I'm bringing into the conversation, and I can't fault him for that. But do you know what it doesn't do? Help solve the problem. I came to the conversation already assuming I was right, so if he can just, justify that to me, it kind of exacerbates the problem because the chances are I'm not actually right. It helps me justify my crappy attitude, and it reinforces the idea that we're supposed to avoid that conflict that a friend might have for another friend who knows that he's doing something wrong. I'm not saying that you should instigate conflict with your friends, but if your friend is having a fight with his significant other, rather than saying you're so right and she's so wrong, try asking harder questions. This is serious. Why does he feel that way? Get her to explain her point of view. Even blatantly calling him out is a healthier option than blind reassurance. No need to be an ass all the time, but have better conversations, please. Small town people have fewer options in terms of a partner, and that's a good thing. When it comes to relationships, there are just fewer people in small towns. There's really no getting around it. The problem is that we humans suffer from shiny object syndrome. We have a hard time sticking to something or someone because we think the grass is greener on the other side. Spoiler alert, it's usually not. It kind of irks people every time I say it, but I don't believe in soulmates. I think that believing that there's one person on this planet just for you is both small-minded and frankly a bit selfish. As soon as you start explaining away circumstances by adding fate into your vocabulary, you come up with two really big problems. First, you remove responsibility, and with that goes your control of any situation. Second, you start to question what's meant to be, quote unquote, when things get rough, and they always do, trust me. Us small town people do also believe in fairy tales like soulmates and fate, but it has a less profound effect on us. Because to be perfectly honest, when there are only 3 kinds of ice cream on the menu, it's easier to be satisfied, it's easier to think that you're not missing out on the other ones once you pick one. You're not missing out on the other ones. It just seems like you are, but when things get rough, because you see the picture over there of the beautiful ice cream. I had a long conversation with this guy on Instagram. We'll call this guy Matt. Matt drifted from relationship to relationship, each one of about 7 that he had. He thought the woman was going to be his future wife. And every time things got hard, he started searching for someone else. Don't mistake Matt for the kind of guy who just can't get a break. He's really the kind of guy who can't work through issues that will inevitably come up in every relationship. I'm not trying to say that every person that you date is meant to be your spouse, but I am saying that this urban phenomenon of more options combined with this fairy tale version of fate that we call soulmates is an easy recipe for unfulfilled relationships. I believe that there are potentially thousands of people who could be your spouse, who could be your soulmate. Your job is to find one of them and grow into soulmates together. You will have to work at every single stage of the relationship, and don't mistake, it will be at every single stage. You'll have to do it, but I promise it's totally worth it. How to find your soulmate. I'm not making this video to convince you that you have to move to a small town to find your spouse, but I do hope that you can learn something from us small town people. Create better relationships. Create better friendships, by being a better friend, asking harder questions and really digging into issues that, your friend might have. And they'll do the same to you in return, I promise, because they hate being confronted and they'll immediately confront you. But don't take that friction and turn it into something unproductive. Make sure that you're making use of it, because it is useful. Ask difficult questions, create conflict when it's necessary, not all the time. Connect with people you wouldn't normally connect with. That means having conversations with people, real conversations, asking them things that are important, real conversations with people that you wouldn't normally connect with. Be a better person, because better, longer, and happier relationships follow deeper connection in all walks of life. And that's it. Till next time.